To Joanny Liu, and welcome to today's Periscope broadcast. I'm Dr. Joanny Liu, founder of Concussion Answers and best-selling author of Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game. Welcome to today's show. Please share this link with your friends, let them know that I'm on, and today we're going to be talking about Frank Sinatra, who was a real expert at reinvention. You might not know this, but the thing is that Frank Sinatra didn't have things easy. In fact, he almost didn't make it into this world. When his mother went into labor, they found out that this was a huge baby, right? So he was 13.5 pounds at birth, and the doctor struggled so much to have him birthed that, he used these forceps and he scarred up this baby, his neck, his face, and he even punctured this little baby's ear canal. I mean, this was a serious problem, a seriously dangerous birth, but Frank Sinatra came through. Now, the thing is that wasn't even the end of it. His grandmother noticed right after he was born that this baby wasn't breathing. So imagine that. She quickly, and I don't know how she knew to do this, but she quickly took her brand new baby grandson and put him under, ran cold water all over him until he started breathing. Imagine that. So Frank Sinatra had a really difficult time being born into this world. He almost didn't make it. If it weren't for the intervention of all those adults around him, my God, he wouldn't have existed. So the thing is that Frank Sinatra had a very long career, and like so many of the other people that I've talked about in the last several weeks, he had a very varied career and lots of ups and downs. He was an actor as well as a singer, a musician. He also was a producer of his own movies. So he had a very varied career, but definitely had his ups and downs, and I'm going to talk about how he actually got through them. The thing is that he was a high school dropout, and because he wanted to sing for as long as he could remember. He knew that this was something that he could do and that he wanted to do and that he did do. Okay, so he dropped out of school in order to sing, and he worked at all kinds of venues in order to do that, and eventually he caught the eye of Tommy Dorsey and his band, and so he sang for them for a few years. And then he did something really brave in the early 40s. He left the band and he went and started his own solo career. Now imagine how much courage that would have taken. And in fact, he really was quite scared. So at his first solo performance, he was greeted by a huge crowd of screaming teenage girls. Imagine that. So he, I guess, is apparently the first modern version of a teenage idol. He was actually 27 years old at the time. Like they talk about his scarring and all that stuff, but I guess I never really noticed anything like that. He always looked pretty good to me. And that voice of his, yeah, he was definitely a crooner. What a voice. He had such a huge range of a vocal range, and the thing is that he was all self-taught. He was all totally self-taught, so all that raw talent just came out of him, and he used it. And so that first performance was a meteoric rise. Okay, it started a meteoric rise for him and his career. But the thing is, he was totally scared stiff by that first experience. And it doesn't surprise me that he would have been scared by all this, because most of us don't really think of success as being something that's going to be automatic. And really, maybe we should be, okay? Now, he continued on, and he started making movies as well, because that's how popular he was. And I guess one of the biggest hits was a movie with Gene Kelly, when he and Gene Kelly played a couple of sailors on leave, and they were traveling through New York and having a good time. So that was one of his best first movies at the time. But believe it or not, he actually went into a slump. And there were some reasons for that. For one thing, he started to experiment with the type of music he was doing, which didn't necessarily appeal to his teenage fans. But you know, this is artistic license, right? People don't like being pigeonholed. People don't like being typecast, and I've talked about that before. So you've got to be who you are. You always have to be who you are. And not care about what other people are saying, because people were saying some pretty serious things about him. You know, the thing is that because of the injuries that he received at birth, thank you so much for your beautiful hearts. Because of the injuries that he received at birth, he was exempted from being recruited to fight in World War II. But there were rumors that came out that said that he actually bribed the army so that he could stay out of it. So there were rumors about that. And there were other rumors, because you may have heard about that, about possible connections with the mafia. Well, sure, there were connections, but the thing is that it was because he happened to grow up in the same neighborhood as a lot of these gangsters did, and they were just little boys at the time. So that was his so-called connection with the mafia. And another thing that happened during that slump was the fact that his best friend, songwriter, and publicist, George Evans, died, and it totally devastated him. In fact, Evans observed that when Frank Sinatra lost his voice, had laryngitis, had bad colds and this sort of thing, and lost his voice and couldn't sing, it was due to heavy emotional stuff that made him lose his voice. And my God, that's the mind-body connection. That's the psychological and physical connection that we all have, that we all definitely have. So when it comes to our brain, definitely all stressful thoughts are going to have an effect on the brain. In fact, stress, that now that we can prove it with our functional MRIs, we can see how the brain changes for the worse when we have a lot of stress and we don't deal with it properly. Okay? And that's why a book like Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game, definitely shows you some of the tools and strategies that you can use in order to do away with harmful stress. And the thing is it's not just about fluffing it up, doing meditation, deep breathing. I mean, in the end, that stuff really doesn't help us, because we need a calm mind in order to be a successful meditator, okay? It used to be, some of my clients would tell me that trying to meditate actually stressed them out because they were trying to be perfectionists the first time. So the whole point of meditation is not to be a perfectionist, but to learn how to control your thoughts and to actually deal with the problems that you have in life, not just to sweep them under the carpet and ignore them. No, you've got to actually take some positive, constructive action on your problems, okay? Because really, that's what Frank Sinatra did. So by 1952, I guess he heard about a film that was being planned. It was called From Here to Eternity. And it was about 3 soldiers set in Hawaii about 8 months prior to the Pearl Harbor attack. And he really wanted to do this. Okay, he really wanted to do this movie. And he fought hard in order to get on that set. And and he worked really hard. Oops. Okay. Let's get me over here now. So he fought really hard to get on that movie, and he worked really hard to do his very best. And as a result, he was actually nominated and won that year the Best Supporting Actor Award. He won an Oscar for that film. And because of his hard work and his belief in himself, he made it. Okay? He made it. And then other people made it too. I mean, all the things that happened prior to him, you know, improving his life again, improving his prospects again, you know, there were a lot of things that he couldn't control. It was all the things that people were talking and saying about him. You know, he had no control over what people were saying. And the only thing that he could do was to keep looking for a solution. And when he found out about From Here to Eternity, well, that was it. You know, that's what he chose to do, and he came out of it fantastic, because from that point on, he was unstoppable. So that's what I mean by we have to reinvent ourselves. We can't stay the same, because life doesn't ever stay the same. It keeps moving, and it's going to keep moving forward whether we're with it or not. So we have to keep doing it as well. Because if we try to stand pat, if we're stubborn, and stubborn really is a negative emotion. It really is a negative state of mind, okay? If we try to stay the same, if we want everything to stay the same, it ain't going to happen. And life leaves us behind, okay? Life leaves us behind. And we will be sick. And we will be weakened. So we can't allow that to happen. Okay? That mind-body connection is what's going to determine how well you're going to do in life, how well you're going to be, how well you're going to do in health, how well you're going to do in life, with your family, with your relationships, all other relationships, with your business, with your careers, with your money making. You know, it all makes a huge difference. So, you've got to move forward. You've got to reinvent. And it only takes a little bit of courage to do it. It really doesn't take a lot of courage. You just got to want it. Okay? Thank you so much for your hearts. I love you too. So, that's the takeaway message today, is reinvent yourself. Don't be afraid of what other people are saying. Don't be afraid of disapproval. Just go and do it. Experiment with your life. That's what we're here for. We're not here to live with regrets or to die with them, okay? Forget about dying with regrets. That's the worst thing that any of us can do, and that's what so many of us end up doing on our deathbeds. Thank you so much for your hearts. I love you too. So, if you know anybody who is suffering from a concussion or post-concussion syndrome right now, please send them to Amazon to get my best-selling book, Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game. And I'll see you next week with another great story. Bye.